I'd like to call the public hearing of the Board Redistricting Committee to order. Start with roll call. Alderman Thompson. Alderman Rostow. Here. Alderman Donahue. Here. Alderman Slattery. Here. Alderman Bellato present. About 7:12. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Alderman Thompson.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business I'd like to do is to introduce Michael Casper, attorney handling the Redistricting Committee, and he has a brief presentation.
Thank you, Alderman. Hi, everyone. As Alderman Bellato said, my name is Michael Casper. I'm a lawyer from Chicago, and I've been retained by the village to help with this project of redrawing the. I'm sorry?
It's a city, not a village.
City, sorry. The city to redraw the ward map. The reason I've been asked, I have a lot of experience doing these kinds of things. I'm involved in these cases a lot. I've represented the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago and a bunch of other entities in terms of these redistricting things. And so what I have up here is a copy of the map. I have the map itself for everybody, so help yourselves if you're interested in seeing what the map looks like today. Here, I'll just let you pass them around. And you know, I'm sure you all are very familiar with this and know a lot more about it than I do. And then I also have a sheet here which explains the population and the demographics of each of the 7 wards. So you want this. So hand those around too. There you go. Okay, and so I don't know how much all of you know about this and what brings us here, so I'll just start sort of at the beginning. The city today has 7 wards. The last time the city redrew the boundaries of each of the 7 wards was in 1995, as I understand, right? 1995 or 96.
Improvement of 96 up to 90
Yeah.
census.
So it's been 20 years. It's been a long time. And in the sheet that I'm handing out, it shows you the total population of the city. As of the 2010 census, the city has a total population of 23,706 people. That's at the bottom of the first column where it says total population. Everybody with me? You guys haven't gotten there yet. Take my word for it.
How much?
23,706 is the total population of the village. So if you take 23,706, you divide it by 7, the next column is 3,387. That is, if you divided that total, you get 3,387 people per ward. That's what we call in this business the target population. If each ward was equal. The next column, if you go to the left of that column, you will see the total population in each of the wards. So to the left of it is the current population of each ward according to the census. To the right of that column is the deviation, meaning how much different from the 3,387 target is it. The first one you'll see is 667 people under the target. The second one is 128 people over the target. So it's pretty simple math, right? And so today you'll see that the target population, like I said, is 3,387. The highest deviation on the underside is 667. So there's 667 people below the target in Ward 1. The highest deviation on the plus side is in Ward 5, 437 over, right? So that results in a total deviation, highest to lowest, of about 1,100 people. which is approximately 33% of the target. 1,100 is approximately 1/3 of the 3,300 target, right? So that's the deviation that you're facing. So that the maximum deviation is 33%. The highest deviation in total is a little bit less than that, 667. And the state of the law, as it is today, is that wards in cities like this have to have a deviation of, they don't all have to be equal, but the deviation cannot be this big. The deviation should be around 10% highest to lowest. So the deviation that you have today is higher than the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, has said is acceptable. So what I would recommend that the village do, or the city, sorry, city. The city do is redraw the wards to fairly allocate the number of people to better approach this 3387 number. And now the way you do this is that in each of these wards that you see up here that are on the map in front of you, there's sort of a system of doing this. You have election precincts. You know, what you're familiar with here in the city is you have blocks, right? Everybody lives on a block. And then there are precincts by which you're elected. But those are not the measurements that are used for doing this process. These numbers in front of you are based on the census. And the census does census tracts. So it could be a couple of blocks in a census tract. So what we're going to have to do is overlay the census data onto this map and reallocate the census tracts onto a map to create a new ward map that would have a better allocation of these, of the total number of people, okay? And so that's what I think that the city has decided to do, and that's certainly what I think as the city's lawyer on this project that I would recommend that they do in order to comply with the dictates of the United States Supreme Court. So that's something that's going to be done. And so the question is, what else should we do, right? And that's sort of up to you, the voters, and your elected officials to determine how else the map should be drawn. You'll see I also included in here, and the next two blocks of columns are the total population, the white population, and you know, this, I hope I'm not offending anyone with these characterizations. This is sort of standard stuff in this business. It characterizes the white population of each ward and the total for the town, the African American population, and the Hispanic population. That's the standard way that groups of people are discussed in the voting rights business, African American and Hispanic. And you'll see the total numbers there as well. The total population, the total percentage population is approximately 20%, 21% white, 30% after 31% African American, and almost 50% Latino. Looks like you have a question. No? Okay. Anybody have a question? If you have a question, just stick up your hand. I'm happy. Yeah. Fire away.
Why does any of the race matter?
Oh, the question is that's a fair question. Why does any of the race matter? And the reason for that is that due to this has nothing to do with Blue Island. It has nothing to do with the city of Chicago. It frankly has nothing to do with the state of Illinois. But the history of our country is such that in the South, after Reconstruction, the southern states passed a lot of laws that made it virtually impossible for African Americans to vote, or that when they were finally empowered to vote, the districts were drawn in such a way that they had no effective voice. So Congress in 1965 passed the Voting Rights Act, which ensures that African Americans and Latinos, for our purposes, and any other minority, has an equal opportunity to participate and has just as fair a shot to elect the candidates that they support as everybody else.
So in 65, they should just toss all that out there, because it really doesn't matter.
Well, that's take that up with your congressman.
I think what he's trying to say is that communities aren't enclaves that don't have a majority of like Mexican Americans just living in one community, blacks living in another community.
That's one of the
more diversified in the wards.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges that you face. You are blessed with a diverse community. And unlike some other places in the country, it's not tightly concentrated. The diversity is not tightly concentrated, it's dispersed, which makes drawing the district challenging. And so that's one of the challenges that the committee and then the council face in creating a new plan, is how to accommodate the diversity, the dispersion amongst the population. Yeah, I've looked at some of the census data that shows just that, right? That all three of these population groups are fairly widely dispersed within the community, which is to the community's credit, absolutely. All right, so we're going to do this. I think Alderman Bellato has a schedule that we want to talk about, right? Do you want to talk about that next?
Yes, we tentatively plan to meet again next Thursday for another public hearing, it'll be the second public hearing. It'll be December 10th. And in the week of the 13th, we'll plan to reveal a draft map, and then not meet again until January. We got Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. January 7th, meet again for another public hearing, and the following Thursday after that for another public hearing, 4 public hearings at the very least, and possibly review another map at that point.
Yeah, and the reason why I think that we want to go down this path of all these public hearings is we want to ensure that everybody feels like they've had adequate input into the process. So rather than just have, we don't have a map to show you today as to how we're going to change it and reallocate it. And one of the reasons for that is we want to know what you think. And so that if you have some suggestions, some ideas, I mean, you're all very much more familiar with this community than I am. I didn't grow up very far from here though, so I'm not completely unfamiliar. You let us know. We'll just establish a system so that you can, your input can be considered. You know, whether you drop it off here or email it, whatever you want. So we're going to spend the next couple of weeks gathering information, taking your suggestions, and then we're going to produce what I would characterize as a draft or a proposed plan. Let you digest that over the holidays. Come back with your comments like, no, you know, putting that line here is a dumb idea. This really should be here, or you're fracturing this community, or whatever it may be, so that we can take that under advisement. And then, you know, the best product, having been through a lot of these processes before, the best product is one where everybody feels like they have complete input and the opportunity to make their suggestions, make their arguments, and suggest to your elected officials why a particular, they're trying to get me to pay for your internet service.
You know, let me ask a question. Do a lot of these ward changes, besides diversity, does it also take into account like the economic part of the neighborhood, or even the income of the people there? Because that takes a whole lot of situations.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, economics is not traditionally one of the factors that are considered. And the reason for that is that that's frankly not something that's part of the census data. You know, how much money you make, you don't have to put on the census. It's frankly nobody's business. And so we don't really know that. But communities of interest, and that's the term that we use for neighborhoods, things like that, you know. So around here, I'm very familiar, having grown up not far from here, parishes, they are generally on the south side of Chicago, your parish is a community of interest. And so, you know, perhaps some of you would think, well, we ought to endeavor to keep parishes together rather than break them apart, that type of thing. You know, in other communities, parishes aren't that important, believe it or not. There are parts of the world that fit into that category. So I hope that answers your question.
Today I believe it was one of the universities, DePaul. There was an event and Michael Casper took part, was a participant.
Yeah, I get around.
This is wondering why you the same close.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah. Yeah, I was on a panel at the Better Government Association this afternoon.
That was today?
Yeah. And I came right here.
As you should.
Yeah, absolutely. I got my priorities straight.
I had concern. You said the city was not, at this time, the council is not prepared to present anything, but have they thought about your data as far as equalizing the number of voters in each ward? Have they thought about how they would go about doing that part?
I'm not sure, I don't know if you've started to think about, I'm sure they've started to think about, I'll let them answer, that's.
We've all received a copy of the original filing that was given directly mailed to all of us. And those are the numbers we're working off right now, and Mr. Casper has given us new numbers, and but to compare the information, all we have right now is what was given to us several weeks ago.
Okay, so we have two sets of numbers?
No, I think the numbers are pretty
Pretty
similar.
similar.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you were saying.
right. It's around, if they're not, they're rounding error. We're on the same page in terms of the.
Oh, okay.
But they do know that.
Oh, that, the numbers.
Yeah, oh yeah, certainly, yeah, right, yeah, I didn't just tell them that 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
Mr. Casper, how much are the taxpayers paying an hour?
I don't know.
No, we need an answer.
I don't know. I think it's $190 an hour.
That's
We
about
need,
right.
we need a firm answer.
I think. I think, I don't know. I frankly, I don't know.
Might be more.
No, it's definitely not more. I'll tell you, it's definitely less than I usually make. Don't tell anybody that I agreed to do it for.
And you're endeavoring to give us a fair map.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I've been charged with.
No, I'm going to make
And,
it
The aldermen,
unlegal.
I don't think they're capable of giving us a fair map. We need, to get a fair map, we need independent people on the board to give a fair map.
Oh,
And that's how we get a fair map, just like in the state of Illinois, they're trying to put that as a referendum, a fair map, not the gerrymandering, not game planning, not the corruption that we've been used to for the last 50 years. Just a fair map with fair people who want to see our city
well,
prosper.
that may very well be. I mean, that's a debatable point, but the law today is that the city council
They have
has
to do it.
authority. They have to do it, right, correct.
They can also appoint, the city
No,
council.
no, they can't.
The city council ultimately vote on it.
Correct, yeah, absolutely, right, correct. Anybody else have any questions?
How long do you suppose this has been, this far out of compliance and an issue, for the city of Blue Island? And in terms of, compliance?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, there's been 2 censuses since it was done, so I haven't looked at the 2000 census data, because quite frankly, it's an interesting historical question, but it doesn't have a lot of relevance to what we're trying to do. We have an assignment to do, and we're gonna do it, and to your point, you know, I could look at all the history and do all of that stuff, but frankly, that's not really a wise use of your taxpayer dollars. for me.
Have
I
you
know
been
you
able
paid me do that.
to, assist the panel members with a greater understanding of the compliance issue so that they understand, the gravity of the situation?
I will let them say whether or not I helped them understand. I may have just confused them, I don't know.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope not, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
So is there any law that exists when redistricting of wards that speaks directly to the question of protecting the incumbents in the process of redistricting, or protecting or specifically barring their protection? Is that a legal question involved with remapping?
yeah, that's a perfectly legitimate question. I am not aware of, there is no law that says that you have to protect them, and there's no law that says you cannot protect them. Does that answer your question? So it's an open question.
How is this gonna affect our aldermen?
Oh, that's a good question. Your aldermen, that's a very good question. Your aldermen were elected to their current terms of office under the current map. And so that's what we have. And so the net, you know, and as I understand it, I just learned this actually, that when I got involved in this project, you have an election out here every year. Every year is election year out here.
Every 2 years.
No, but every year you have a general election.
Yes.
And then you have an aldermanic election in every other year. You don't take any years off.
Right.
Yes.
What?
You're right.
Most cities at least take 1 year off. But not you, you're out here all the time. And so when you're elected to a term of office from a district, you serve out that term. So all the elected officials, by law, are required to serve out the term, and they're going to, you know, and on a perfectly understandable theory that this ward elected this alderman, and they are entitled to have that person represent them throughout the term. And so what we'll have to do is come up with a transition schedule and a way to have it, I think the plan, unless I'm misunderstanding, and we're just getting started in this, is to have a transition for the 2017 and the 2019 elections until we get on the same page. And then it'll be 2021 and we'll have to do it all over again. But you won't have to do it again if the deviation, we should be able to hit the deviation pretty well, that it's less than 10%, that you won't necessarily have to do it in 2021. You may want to, but you may not be required.
Just a question, I'm not trying to argue here, but when you redistrict these wards, how about the voting ages of people on those wards 2 years from now? Has that been taken into account?
No, that's a good question. One of the things you'll see, if you look at these statistics here that I'm showing you, if you look at, say, Ward 1 at the top, in the African American population, you'll see it's 510. And then the next column over is 18.75. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
So that means that the African American population of the first ward is 18.75%.
Yeah,
right?
how old are they?
Right. So now go to the next column
Okay, my mistake.
and look at the voting age population. You see that?
Okay, yeah.
It's 346, which means that there are roughly 150 people who are not of voting age who live in the first ward. And so you'll see that the percentage of the voting age population is 17%, but the percentage of the total population is 18, right? And why is that? And you'll see that that's the case in every ward, right? And that's because there are children, right, in every ward. So one is
And not everybody is registered to vote.
right, exactly. And so that's another question that we here in Illinois, when we do it, we draw the districts based on the total population, and then for purposes of complying with the Voting Rights Act, the measurement that we use is voting age population to ensure that if there were a district where 50% of the people were children, then and we use total population, that would not be an accurate measure of minority voting strength, right? Because half of the people couldn't vote, and so that we try to target. That's why that third column is there, to accommodate the age differences. All right? All right, yeah.
Based on these figures, it's 1 in 5 that are, wards 1 in 5 that are the major, don't hit the deviation.
Right. Correct.
Why such a major change when maybe all that has to be adjusted is 1 in 5?
Yeah, well, obviously it can't just be 1 in 5. It has to, because you have to take them from somewhere else. But yeah, it could be as simple as that. You're certainly welcome to make such a suggestion, and the committee is certainly free to consider that. It could be as simple as that, right? It could be just simply taking doing the minimal amount necessary to get within that 10% band, or it could be as broad as making major changes for whatever purposes you want to do. It's entirely up to you, the voters, and the committee. But that's the range of options. You're absolutely right. There is a fairly minimalist solution.
I understand that last one's concern about 1 in 5, even if you wanted to swap those people. Don't we really want to keep the communities kind of cohesive?
Well, what do you mean by cohesive?
Well, what I mean is that, say, the block of Artesian all the way to 127th, or even all the way, west or east, pretty similar to where the people are already in that ward. Do we want to go to the 6th ward and pick some people and put them in 5? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, but they're based on the proposal 1, they're changing these boundaries greatly. What?
I want to point of clarification.
Cacasa's proposal here on this map, that's a major change of wards.
and when we talk about moving people, we're not actually moving people. Don't get worried.
Now moves.
We're gonna draw lines around where you live, everybody gets the same.
Right, I know, I'm just saying, you don't want a line going over to 139th Street and back up to 127th in the same ward. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of that proposed map, that shows some, what they call contiguous, where they're close together, and they're real regular rectangular shapes. And it goes north, south, east, west, and two in the middle. So it's kind of, it really straightens out a lot of the, you know, the curving, gerrymandered looking borders that we have today.
Yeah, and a lot of the shape that you're talking about, a lot of that deals with the municipal boundaries too. You know, you have some funny looking borders too, and that
Right.
exacerbates.
Yeah, and so the lines in the center of the city follow real logical patterns like 123rd Street, 127th.
Oh, thank you.
You know, Maple, Highland, you know, things like that. So that was one of the ideas of drawing those borders the way they are. And also that reflects the 1965 Voting Rights Act considerations about making sure that we did not draw a map that put uneven proportions into different wards, which would dilute anybody's voting power. That when everyone goes to the polls, they can feel that they're equally represented.
Mr. Casper,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, if you can, have any other questions, or I'd like to move on to the public hearing, because I know I'm sure a lot of people in here would like to express them.
Okay, sure. And I guess somebody just handed me a copy of this proposal. Do you guys have enough for everybody, to make sure everybody has that? Oh, you did, okay. All right, great. Great, okay, fine. I'll just, unless anybody has any more questions for me, I'll just go up and we'll move on to the next. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone.
Is there an agenda that you can pass around?
Oh, I don't know. What's there one?
I don't have one.
Well, can you give us kind of an outline of what the?
Just public hearing and adjournment.
Yeah, what we're here to do today, this is the first hearing. I just want everybody to know that if you have some suggestions, we got some today, if you have some more suggestions, if anybody wants to have input, how we should establish a system so that people who have ideas and want to come forward, if you have ideas now about particulars, I don't know that we'll be in a position to hear from a lot of you now, but if you want to, we certainly can. The question is, if you have some suggestions, you know, nothing's going to be rushed. If you're thinking about the wards as they are, thinking about the data that I've just given you, if you have some ideas, we should establish a system whereby your suggestions can be given to the committee on a going forward basis so that we have them next week and we can talk about any of the input that you have. And then following week, hopefully, we'll produce at least a first draft plan for your consideration and do that. So, and then come back after the holidays, like the chairman said, to discuss the draft plan and take your input on that. So that if we got some things wrong or some things need to be improved, we can do that. And so I don't really have anything else because we're not, you know, I just wanted to get the process started and let people know that they can present whatever suggestions or input that they want. And we have to establish a system to do that, and I think you're better prepared to establish that than I am. But if anybody has any remarks or stuff they'd like to bring forward tonight, by all means.
Will the information be forthcoming, or are we gonna have to kind of pull it out of the committee?
No, I would certainly recommend that any public comment or any public input that we get be made available to everyone. Sure. Yeah, so keep that in mind. If you put anything in, expect it to be made public so that everybody else can see it. Right, I think that's fair.
So you raised the admission then?
Sure, absolutely. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
I'd like to I'll reiterate, somebody asked about the agenda. I don't have extra copies, but there was an agenda posted. I'll call for us opening the meeting, roll call, public hearing, and adjournment. No decisions on the agenda tonight. So that's all that's on the agenda. So I'd like to invite public one by one to come up here, just like city council formats. You can state your name, address. You can by all means say what organization you're with or who you're representing. I'm not going to institute a time limit. We're going to let everybody talk as long as we're on the issue of ward redistricting. And I'd like to stay on topic because I know there's a lot of people here. So I'd like to open it up to the floor, and whoever wants to start, they can go to the podium.
Hi, I am not from Blue Island. My name is Ruth Greenwood and I'm an attorney from the Chicago Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. I've been helping out CASA Blue Island, and many of the members from CASA are here. I just wanted to plug in so we could have the map up on, as we go, the proposed map, and then you could talk about the wards that you've drawn and why you've drawn them. So, I also, as you should mention, there's an organization called Redistrict that has offered to give us a free online mapping tool, and so it should be available by Monday. And so I'm going to put up instructions for how to use it. It means that everybody could draw up maps, and they'll all be saved online. You guys can look at all of them to your heart's content, edit them, and so on.
That'll be a huge help. Thank you.
Okay.
But real quick, Mr. Keener, do you have any extra copies for the committee to have of your map? I don't have that either. I just have just the current board maps. Go ahead.
Thank you. Randy's got the last one.
That's fine. We got
I got this.
Okay, so with our current map, the two areas with greatest deviation as far as being too many people in an existing ward was down here in the 6th ward and then up here in the 5th ward. And the place where there was the most most overrepresented was in the 1st ward. So this map kind of takes just a fresh approach to it, and got rid of this way that the 4th ward used to snake around like that, and the 2nd ward used to snake around like that. So now there's kind of rectangular type of shapes where they're a block, and that kind of meets one of the federal guidelines for having contiguous districts. And also what people have mentioned about keeping communities together. So Mr. Jasper and Ms. Alwumi mentioned that. It's good to keep communities together. So it's kind of broken into north, south, east, and west. We have these two sections divided by Western Avenue, very obvious border, in the south. And then on the east side, we have a ward over here. And this is mostly unpopulated. This section way out by the industrial areas and railroad tracks. And then over here is the western end on Ward 4, which is to a large extent the same border it has currently, except the part that used to snake along the canal. Then across the north of the city is the 7th Ward, which is real similar to the existing one, except that it keeps it more up to the north instead of having it going down south of 127th Street. So once you have those framed like that, then the other two wards are right in the center, almost squares. And that brings the population very, very close to even. And it also takes into account those other numbers that we talked about, not only the current population, but also the voting age population, so that as the children get older, it still keeps its continuity and still remains a good ward map. Also, one of the things that it promotes is that it avoids isolating different ethnic groups from each other and creating little pockets of ethnic groups that have the effect of diluting their ability to be represented fairly. So these maps have population where where all ethnic groups have an equal chance of being represented. So, any comments or questions about this proposed map?
You know, let me ask a question, but I know anticipation is one thing, but you know, some of these wards, how many people actually move out on a continuous basis? How many people constantly move back in on a continuous basis? I know that's kind of a hard.
Right.
That's reason.
Yeah, and also,
It's so big.
as I mentioned, we'll have a fresh census of the city of Blue Island, you know, in 5 years. So this will, you know, need to be updated as well. But as we've seen, isn't so much areas losing population. It seems to be every neighborhood in the city is actually slowly gaining population over time. So we really haven't seen any big swings where we have a section of town that gets cleaned out, or a section of town that just booms where there didn't used to be anybody there.
Well, I personally want to say that I like the diversity part of this map. I really like it because I think, you know, we can't enclave our culture at all. It's got to be inclusive with everybody else. My personal opinion.
Right, very, very good point. And it helps, you know, build the community, and it also complies with the law. It makes us all, you know, better and stronger and more unified community. If we take these steps and take them in a conscious, you know, deliberate manner, it makes a big difference. Yes?
My question is really more for the attorney. How frequently should these ward maps be looked at by the city council or the village board in each community? Is there a regular interval, an expectation?
Yeah, I mean, you can answer this, I'll give you my answer, which is every 10 years. So after the census happens, the Constitution requires a census every 10 years. And the Supreme Court has said that after the census, you should redistrict according to the most recent census data. So it should happen again just after the 2020 census, 2030.
To answer the question from my perspective, I agree with Ms. Green. The census comes out, the census is taken in the year that ends in 0, so 2000, 2010. Most suburban Chicago communities and Chicago itself and the state do it in the following year, 2011, 2001, etc. Why that was not done in this community in 2001 and in 2011, I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows. But I agree, that's the traditional time to do it.
So how long has it been since we've been?
20 years.
96 was the last map approved off the 1990 census.
So it's been out of compliance for nearly 20 years.
Yes.
Well, we don't know that.
It'd be-
We know it is today.
We're guessing.
Right. They should have reviewed it 2011, probably.
Yeah, probably the first time after that they should have reviewed it was 2001.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions about this map?
I'd just like to indicate to those who are not sure or who are concerned about how this map is going to work out. You hear me okay? It's just that. We can't hear you up there. I'm Willie Scott, 11917 Longwood Drive. I was just adding a comment that indicates that this map is flexible. You can sit at home and draw your own map as long as it meets the requirements of the figures that he just gave you. So the point is, draw your own map and of course comply, and you'll be better satisfied with the way it turns out eventually.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. If you want to come to the podium, if you're addressing the committee, and I'm sure we can direct you if you have questions to anybody else that presented.
My name is Victor Lee, 2957 142nd Place, Blue Island. I was just wondering, I see numbers here. Is this map here reflected in any numbers or data?
Sure, yeah, so this map is available at casablueisland.org, C-A-S-A, blueisland.org. Once you're on the map, you can select a district and it will bring up the information on the left-hand side. So on the page it explains that voting age population. CVAP is an estimate of the citizen voting age population based on the American Community Survey, and then TPOP means total population. So you can see what the calculations are for each of the wards.
And what the new population would be.
Yeah, I mean, also on this page, here, you can put on where the current wards are, they sort of show up behind, and you can put on where the incumbents are. If I got your addresses right.
Now, if this company puts the draw your own map software on the casablueisland.org website, would it also have this?
Yeah, so the idea is that when you would go onto it, let me stand up there. So with the iRedistrict, you would go on and then you would click, so you say, you could start with the current ward map and say, this is fine, but I need to move this boundary here, or I want to move this boundary here. So you would just click and move the boundary, and then it has the numbers appear on the side, and it tells you what the new numbers are. So you can work out if you're in compliance or not.
I Googled all that on the old map, and what you do is you hit the neighborhood, and it comes out to a pie, and it tells you the Hispanic, the white, all the percentages on there, your income, everything. You can scroll through all that, you can find all that information. Once you hit, like on the old map, it's probably going to be on this map once they implement it. But on the old map, if you go Google it, you hit it, it comes up to a pie chart and gives you all the information you need. Scroll to the left, scroll up and down, it gives you all the income, the racial, and the income, the racial, the income, the population, the ages, and everything.
Please.
My question would be for you, Mr. Casper. Is that the same system that you use as well?
That iRedistrict software?
Yes.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's similar though. It's
Okay. I mean, because this is actually very impressive, because you can get that detailed information that up until this point has not been readily available or transparent anywhere else that I've seen.
Yeah, a lot of changes in the computer technology in the last 20 years.
Yes, yes. And you looked as surprised as I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Yes, please. If you can speak either louder or come to the podium. So
I
can
had
everybody
an
hear?
impression that this was a meeting for the problems that's going on in the community. When is that meeting? Because this map and stuff, I'm not understanding. Is it next to it? Okay, that's what I want to know. Thank you. Because I'm in the wrong meeting.
Please come back.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Ms. Greenberg, how much are you charging the taxpayers of Blue Island for your services?
Oh, me, Greenwood?
Yes, ma'am. You and your law firm, how much is this gonna cost the taxpayers in the city of Blue Island? And better be ready to write that check.
It's all free, yeah. I work for a nonprofit.
Free. How much was it?
It's
free. My favorite price point, free. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Joe Gabriel, 12607 Artesian, Blue Island. So, continue on what Carol said. I've been sitting in some of the sessions with CASA. The map that they've created look very, very good. Nothing against you, Mr. Casper, but as she mentioned, free legal services, from them. So, I strongly urge the committee and to take it to the city council to to consider this map or something close to this map, and you could probably wrap up this process very, very quickly and save the city a lot of money in the process. So, and I hope the people that are here tonight, and, you know, I'm glad to see that everybody came out and, you know, look at these maps and give your input to the committee and the city council. And, you know, maybe we can get through this in maybe even fewer meetings than we're scheduled. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We don't have any money.
Alan Stevo, 2324 Union. One thought that CASA tried to do when they were putting this map together, they tried to unite the city, not divide it. This is about uniting our community, not having a township division, Ward Township, Calumet Township predominantly, but to unite our city and develop and grow our city. Let's unite our city.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification, as Mr. Stevo said, if anybody didn't know, we have 4 townships in the city of Blue Island. We're very unique in that. We have Bremen, Thornton, Calumet, and Worth.
Yes.
All divided along Western. Anybody else? Please come forward. It's a public hearing. I'm here all night.
Gonna start telling jokes.
I believe it's on channel. It's going to be on channel 4. So it'll be on record.
But I think there was an impression that people were being mean to the city council. I certainly hope that tonight's meeting has provided a lot of clarity for everyone, including the city council members.
Thank you.
And you're part of the community also, so we haven't heard anything from anybody up there except you. I mean, they're not even saying, you know, that this is something that they really want to work on or to do.
I'm not going to speak for the other committee members. I know they can for themselves.
But Fred,
I
look like
believe
you're
the
under
process needs to be
duress.
reviewed. I'm 100% in favor of the process being reviewed. It should have been done like we talked about. I'm glad it's being done now. Please.
Never shy to say a couple words. I agree with Alderman Bellato that something does need to be done. It's going to be done fairly. It's going to be done by federal law. There's attorneys on both sides. Just hopefully at the end that everyone could agree and not be too angry or be upset. There's always going to be people hurt. But this process is going to be done fairly. We agreed to the 4 hearing dates that CASA set out. So we are playing by equal rules or equal representation here. So we are being team players on this, and we hope the community and hope to continue to work with the community on this process going forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll take a quick minute to chime in too. To your question, Mrs. Olney, about why is only Chairman Bellato speaking. I think. Can't hear you. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm too very in favor of this. This is long overdue, and you know, this is a great opportunity to make sure we get it done right. And you know, today we're here to listen to any resident wanting to express their opinion, what their thoughts are. These are things we're going to take into consideration when we start to hash out all the material, the data, and the opinions of the people we represent. So that's why we're here. That might be why we're not really speaking to them. We're here to listen. We're here to take all this and encompass it. And I would say the chairman here is guiding tonight's meeting. So that's all. Thank you, Chairman.
Alderman Thompson, one of the Aldermen in 7th Ward. We want to thank CASA for the effort that's been put forward here and everybody else concerned. This is something that should have been done some time ago, and it has not been done. So we're going to do our very best to make this an equal and fair process. We hope We're not gonna please everybody, we know that, but we're going to do our utmost to do the right thing. That's what we're here for, to do the right thing.
That's a change, a positive change.
Thank you. We're here all night, like I said, we want to be here. We want everything on record. If you guys got ideas, please submit them. As of right now, I don't have a system in place, but use the website. I like it so far, and or drop something up at the clerk's office, attention me or any of the committee members. And once we get into this tonight, I just want to hear everybody's opinions and ideas and keep it real open.
I don't care how it gets done or how you draw the map, as long as you have the right numbers in each one of those, each one of the wards. Enough is enough.
Thank you. If there's nobody else,
Would you reiterate your public hearing dates?
so we have today, our first public hearing, and then we're scheduling another meeting, public hearing, committee meeting on December 10th, which is next Thursday, 7 p.m. here at East Annex. Then we're planning to reveal, we might not have a meeting, we might just put on the website or make attention to different law firms, a draft copy of the map the week of December 13th. Then we'll have that all processed during the holidays and resume again on January 7th for another meeting. And possibly if we're going to the 4 meetings, again, January 14th. Hopefully we can wrap it up.
I think the mayor mentioned the 17th and the 21st as well.
The 17th and the 21st, 17th is the week we'd like to rebuild a map. I'm not sure if that's going to, I don't think that would need a meeting for that. It'll just be a map going out there and that we can process it all and come back to the next meeting with our ideas. And then the next week after that's Christmas Eve, and then for New Year's Eve, and we're back the first week of January. Plenty of time for you guys to come up with ideas.
You got
That's it. I'll ask for an adjournment. I'm going to give one last chance, last call. Anybody have anything else to say on record? All right, I need a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Alderman Donahue, second by Alderman Thompson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?